Hello, Dr. Yon, TAs, and classmates. Today in this document, I will compare and contrast three social movements, and I will also give my opinion on which movement was more successful and why. Today, I would like to discuss the African American civil rights movements, the anti-war movement, and the LGBTQ movement. But first, let's begin with the African American civil rights movement. The African American civil rights movement was a time in which African American community went through a rough time. They were discriminated against because of their race, skin color, and most of them were lynched and seen as inferior compared to the white people. They were separated and had to go to different schools, different restaurants, and have low paying jobs, and the list goes on. The main goal of the African American civil rights movement was to end all unfair treatment to the African American community, which included segregation and discrimination. The tactics African Americans took were that they were out in the streets protesting and marching. Some women made an activist group called the Anti-Lynch Crusaders. Based on the document 7, the Anti-Lynching Crusaders, the lynching of women of 1922, the Anti-Lynching Crusaders were a group of women organized to stop lynching. Their slogan was "A million women united to stop lynching." They were trying to raise money for their support and end lynching. We also have another group called the Black Panthers, which used a, which based on the document, the civil rights readings provided by Dr. Young, protested protested to end police brutality and murder against African Americans. There were also important people who fought for this cause, like Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks. Martin Luther King Jr. participated in many protests and marches along with the speeches he gave. And Rosa Parks was also important because based on the History Channel's website, she used to refuse to give up her seat to a white person. And in my opinion, these two people were the most important cause because it inspired other people to fight for their rights. Now let's talk about the anti-war movement. When the war in Vietnam began, many Americans believed that defeating the South Vietnam was the best thing to do because communism was threatening three governments across the globe, and the United States thought that if they didn't do anything, then communism would spread globally, and finally it would reach the United States. The goal of the anti-war movement was a movement to end war, and one tactic they used was the Give Peace a Chance movement. The Give Peace a Chance movement was a movement in which many people gathered in the streets and protested. Some writers and singers even made songs to support the anti-war movement. But all the protests were not so peaceful. Based on the US History website, in the late 1960s, radical activists felt their demands were being ignored, so peaceful demonstrations turned violent. When the police arrived to arrest the protesters, the crowds often fought back. The students occupied buildings across college campuses, forcing many schools to cancel classes. The anti-war movement was successful in the sense that people stopped supporting the war because there were many deaths and little improvement in hopes of winning the war. And now let's talk about the LGBTQ movement. The LGBTQ movement was a movement that tried to give homosexuals, bisexuals, and transsexuals equal rights. Most people who were part of the LGBTQ movement often had to live a double life and pretend they were somebody else. They were discriminated at work, they couldn't practice any religion, they could not have an open relationship, and public affection was prohibited. Many who were known to be homosexuals were considered to have a mental illness and were put in medications. The tactics they took were that they would go out to parades and protest for equal opportunities and rights. They would also create activist groups such as the Society of Human Rights, which based on the podcast given by Dr. Young. The group was created by gay and lesbian people. The main purpose of the group was to combat public prejudice against those who, by reasons of mental and physical abnormalities, are abused and hindered in the legal pursuit of happiness guaranteed them by the Declaration of Independence. They were successful because now there is a law that prohibits discrimination based on sexual orientation. Now that we have seen all the three movements, we can discuss the similarities between them, which in my opinion, the similarity between them is that they fought for the rights and ideals that they deserve as human rights. Now that we have discussed the three movements, I want to give my opinion on which one is more successful. And I think that the LGBTQ movement was more successful than any other movement because the LGBTQ community were discriminated based on sexuality, which affects many aspects of life. They couldn't work, they couldn't have an open relationship, some were not accepted in public places, and they couldn't belong to religious groups. Pretty much, they had to suffer the same discrimination that the African community went through during the civil rights movements. They had the same civil liberties taken away, but in the case of the LGBTQ movement, they couldn't get married or have children. Now, now at this time, they do have the right to. They do have the right as everybody else, and that's why I think the LGBTQ movement was successful. They had to overcome more barriers than the African American community had, which I also want to bring back the point that lately racism and discrimination have gone through the roofs, which brings up the questions: was racism and discrimination over in the first place? And I don't think it is. I think we still have uh, some other steps to take for the civil rights movements to be successful and discrimination. In regards of the anti-war movement, I will say that it was the least successful because the war didn't end because of the protesters, but because we were losing the war, so they brought back the troops. All right, and that's what I think. Thank you guys. You'll have a good day.